recording. Thankful to Krishna for reminding me. so, so verses 16 to 24, we're basically going to discuss this well-known concept. All of us might have heard it in different uh, in settings about the types of different types of karma. Why are we discussing about the different types of karma? Because Arjuna is like kind of caught up that if I engage in my duty of fighting as a warrior, because I would have to kill and that would incur bad karma. So I don't want any karma, bad karma. So in that he thinks not doing anything, just escaping from all duty and just sitting quietly, not doing anything, will help him escape from all bad karma. That is his understanding, which Krishna is going to challenge in this section. So Krishna explains there are three types of karma. So he especially speaks about them in the verses 16 to 18. So he says how karma in general has so many meanings. This is a very complicated, loaded word, I would say. There are so many meanings based on the context. Karma can just mean any action. Like now I'm speaking, you can call this as a karma because I'm acting. So, however, here karma means prescribed action. That means what? We saw that there are four social orders. Each social order has some prescribed action. Like a warrior's duty is to protect the country, is to protect his citizens, is to make sure there is proper conduct and there is proper discipline and order in the society. That is the duty of a warrior or a king or an administrator. And that is considered as the prescribed duty or prescribed action. So for Arjuna, as we all understand, the prescribed duty, because he is a warrior, he is a prince, is to engage in fight when it is according to the rules and to protect his own citizens and the country. So here, any action usually performed by anybody according to the prescribed duties and regulations of the Varnashram Dharma, so that is considered as karma. And actually these actions lead actually good reactions. I'm sorry, I have written it wrongly. They're actions that yield good reactions, not no reactions, and these results in actually better material future or elevation to heavenly planets. So this is the result of having good karma. We usually call it as good karma. And then there is the other category, which is the bad karma, because if somebody engages in actions which are negative, then that yields negative results. So anything actions against the prescribed duties and regulations. That's what Arjuna is thinking, that just by giving up all duty and sitting idle, I could actually avoid the reactions. However, Krishna is trying to explain him that just sitting idle is not inaction, because inaction here he explains how actions that you are acting, but they don't yield you either good or bad reactions. They are neutral, and that is the that category of action is actually selfless action dedicated to the supreme. If Arjuna could act as a service to Krishna, engaging his own duty of, as a warrior, as a service to Krishna without any selfish motivations, so then that will not have any bad impact. It will not create any karmic bondage. Rather, it leads to liberation. So that's the whole idea that Krishna is trying to give him. So there is good karma, there is bad karma. There is something called as our karma, which does not give any results. You can freely act and you will not be having any reactions to that word. So Krishna is saying, act like that, engage in such kind of activity. So that is the recommendation of Krishna in these verses 16 to 18, when he is emphasizing that please understand the nature of karma. Without that, don't make your decisions. So that is why he says it's not very easy. People confuse inaction as action or action as inaction. So he says that it's very difficult to understand. So better understand these categories clearly so you can make your decisions in an informed way. And Yes, Madam.
I'm sorry. Are you in the screen next to your um, slides for a reason?
Yeah,
Is there
It's
I was
something
hard to.
about to
happening to the
comment the
Zoom?
same thing.
Okay, I had some difficulty when I started the share. I think they have created a new feature. What is happening? I am not able to see what's happening.
Oh, you're sitting next to your slides. Therefore, your slides are tiny and we can't read them so well.
Okay, I'm very sorry. Let me
I was
check.
just typing that in the chat box because I arrived late, so I thought probably he must have told y'all something about it. So I was
No,
kind of
I
just
think they have
typing the
introduced a
thing
new
down.
feature. The share was trying to tell me something. I just was not, I didn't pay full attention. So let me do it again. Thank you for. How is it this? How is it now?
It's
Yes, this is
perfect.
better. It's working.
Oh, okay, I'm very sorry. Thank you
It's
for
okay.
bringing it up.
Can you
Uh,
go back to the last one real quick? Just
yes.
okay.
So the three types of karma. So karma, akarma, and vikarma. So all these three things he explains how we can act in ways either it leads to good reactions or bad reactions, but we also have the choice to act in ways which does not create any reaction. For that, action needs to be all our work or our actions. What do I mean by action is usually our duties, usually our work to be dedicated to the supreme. And we had seen in the past weeks how do we do it in many ways, but we can also discuss that. Like, say, for example, if somebody is cooking, which is actually everybody's duty every single day. So, earlier in the section of the third chapter, we have seen that how do you dedicate your daily activities to God? So, basically, it's as simple as that if somebody is cooking food, they can offer it to God, and that actually makes that work as inaction as karma, even though they engage in activities like cooking or even work. When the results are engaged in the service of Krishna, so then that work also becomes inaction, or it does not produce good or bad reactions, it is neutral. And Krishna is saying, you act for my pleasure. I'm asking you to fight. If you do that, you will not incur any actions. So you don't need to be so much concerned about incurring bad reactions. So that is the whole thing that he's trying to explain in verses 16, 17, and 18. And I don't want to go in these terminologies because it's like a little bit confusing. That's why I'm keeping it trying to keep it simple. So basically, he uses the word action for karma and inaction for akarma. Akarma could mean not doing anything in Arjuna's idea, but in Krishna's idea, inaction means doing activities which does not create any reaction. So, am I making sense? They both are speaking the same using the same terminology, but they both are referring to different things. Arjuna is saying inaction and thinking that I will sit idle, I will not do anything. That means I won't get any reaction, right? I didn't do anything. Why would I have a reaction? But Krishna's argument is you are not doing what you're supposed to do, so that's why you will have a repercussion. Imagine if a police officer walks by a crime scene and does not do anything to stop the criminal from uh, acting. It is actually a failure of duty. It is considered more serious. So that's what here Krishna is trying to say, that you as a warrior not participating and letting bad things happen or letting wrong things happen under your nose, it is not inaction, it is actually bad action. It's actually failure of action. So it does attract a bad karma. So that's the point that he's trying to get across to Arjuna. And then he speaks about this topic of science of reaction free work. How does that happen? Like, how do we do work that will not incur any reactions? And this is a lot of verses from 19 onwards until 23 and 24. So I just put them into an acronym so that it's easy to remember, and also we get all the main points in those verses. So one thing that Krishna says, if you really want to do a detached work, means it's not that you're detached from work, but you work with a selfless nature. You work without ego. So how can we do that? Be it at your workplace, or be it within the family, be it in general life. So how do we do that? The first thing to have is mind control. That means when the mind and intelligence are fully controlled or purified, then it becomes easy for us to engage in the right things we are supposed to do. Because lack of mind control leads us to do so many unnecessary things, which creates more issues for us. So the first qualification for being a selfless worker in this world is mind control. And then he speaks about being detached. That means attachment free. But what are we being detached from? In the previous chapter 3, we discussed this, that we are not speaking about being detached from making plans. We are not asking to be detached from goals. What Krishna is asking is being detached from results, which are not in our control. We could do the best we can, and we hope that everything goes well, but we can put all our energy in doing the thing rightly. Sometimes it may give the result that we expect, sometimes we may not get the result we expect, but that should not affect our ability to engage and endeavor fully, give our 100% to life. So for that we need to be detached. We are thinking, oh, I didn't get results then, so I won't do it. We may what do you call, like, we may actually end up not living 100% when we are not detached, because our mind is like kind of overcome by fear, overcome by anxiety. So then we will stop living less than 100% what we could do in this life. And the other one is simplicity. When we are too much overwhelmed by things we don't need, we end up wasting our time doing things we don't need to. So that's why he's saying keeping it simple. So keeping things simple in the sense like desiring for things which are helpful for us, and learning to be satisfied with whatever we already have. There is nothing wrong in endeavoring for more. However, first, there is nothing stopping us from being satisfied now. It's not that I can become happy only after I get so that this much money or this position or this or this. We could be happy now and satisfied with what we already have. At the same time, we could continue to endeavor to make our life better. They both are not exclusive things. And the other quality of a selfless worker is transcendental knowledge, which is this whole chapter. This knowledge about what is karma, who am I, who is God, what is the nature of God, what is my relationship with God, and what is the nature of my duty in this world, what is my purpose. So having all this idea, so this is the transcendental knowledge, especially the nature of God and nature of our true self and our connection with God. This is the core of transcendental knowledge. And the fifth quality is equanimity. We did discuss in the previous chapter 3 about equanimity, a whole section. So basically being freed from the duality of envy and anger, because a lot of our actions are in this world, unfortunately, dictated by envy. We see others, then we think, oh, I also need to have that. We don't think, is it necessary for me? But we think, oh, somebody has such a car, I need to have this. Somebody has gone on to this place for vacation, I need to have this. Somebody has that phone, I need to buy that. So the world, being based on the advertisement and propaganda, forces us to think, oh, somebody has something else and they seem to be happy, so I need to have that, only then I'll be happy. Maybe it's different for our life. However, we become influenced. So being free from those kind of influences of our mind. So that is called as equanimity. And sometimes there will be loss in our actions. Sometimes we will be successful. Sometimes we may not get the results exactly how we want it. But we are not going to give up. We are not going to say, oh, last time I wasn't successful, so I won't try. So being in equanimity means we never fail to try give a next try. We never fail to endeavor to take the next action, the next step that is within our control. We never stop, we never give up unless it becomes very clear what we are supposed to and what we are not supposed to. And for all of these things, the mind and intelligence needs to be controlled. And the last one is again this similar, I would say, resilience. Being resilient is also being steady in success and failure. Because usually when people become successful, they become very arrogant, they can become very proud, and they can become overconfident. And when we actually fail, then we become actually morose, we lose our confidence, and we assume. So it's not the success or the failure, it is who we are. Is we are servant of God, we are servant of Krishna, we are a spirit soul. So when we are situated in that identity, then neither success nor failure can affect us too much. So that is the core of transcendental knowledge. So Krishna is asking Arjuna to identify not just as a someone's relative, someone's friend, someone's student, someone's grandson. uh, he is asking him to identify himself as the spirit soul who has a connection with God, and the instruction is coming from Krishna. And also, it is according to the nature of Arjuna to act. So, if he only actually chooses to act without selfish considerations, and with mind and intelligence controlled, with detachment, with simplicity, with transcendental knowledge, with equanimity and resilience, he would be a better contributor to this world. So that is the idea that Krishna is giving in these verses. So anything that anybody wants to ask or wasn't clear? Okay. Hopefully the section is means I'm making sense and it is kind of understandable. Okay.
I
And
have, sorry, I couldn't find the raise your hand feature again. But I just had a really quick question. And it's a bit more specific to the master part where you're where it said that like one must be fully situated in transcendental knowledge, and I think part of that is that like what we're learning, right? But um,
part
how
of
can we
that means, pardon me, part of that?
part of that like also means like how like we're inquiring for knowledge like
Okay.
today and generally in classes,
Mhm.
but how can we bring that into like our daily life, or how do we keep that with us on in every part of the day?
Yeah, means I understand like how do we apply this transcendental knowledge in daily life, or how do we take even this idea of being uh, detached or being uh, like equipoised, how do we bring it in life? Is that the question you're trying to ask?
Yes, that's the question.
It has to start small somewhere, because we won't be able to do it in all the aspects of our life immediately, but it needs to start somewhere. I would say it cannot just start on an intellectual level alone. It has to start on a um, practice level of spiritual practice, a daily spiritual practice. Also, like usually divide your days, morning especially for spiritual inspiration. If that is the first thing that you try to do first thing in the morning, if you're receiving spiritual inspiration through whatever time you have, you may have 5 minutes, you may have 15 minutes, you may have 2 hours, whatever it is, engage in some regular spiritual activity in the morning. That should be setting the tone for the day through your spiritual activity. So create some spiritual inspiration in the morning, a purpose for your day, a purpose for your life. Revisit that. Maybe write and paste it in your door, or write and paste it on your workplace, or something like that, where with a quick glance you can understand what is the purpose that you're trying to work towards, or not just a job, because the job is just not a means of our life. Actually, it's just like it's one of the ways that we get money, but we are not maintained just by our money. So there are many more other factors which maintains us, especially Krishna in so many other ways. He's the maintainer of life. Money is just an external vehicle to achieve that. So writing it out, putting it out there, so you can start your day with a strong spiritual inspiration and purpose for the day, and also engaging personally in some form of spiritual activity like chanting or some little worship or reading something. So whatever works according to your time and whatever is your current practice. If you don't have any, at least start something. Do so. Morning should be for spiritual inspiration. Your afternoon, then it becomes more productive. You're not distracted. The focus of the during the day is productivity, and in the evening is again reflection. How did the day go? Is there something you could again nourish yourself, connect yourself to your purpose before bed? In between, yeah, there will be entertainment, there will be other duties of life, but have these elements in your day spread. Keep your these elements in your day. In the morning, get some spiritual inspiration. Evening, have some reflection. What did you do? What are you doing about your life? And also focus on the productivity during the day. So then it reduces your distraction and it also gives you purpose for the productivity. You're not just working for the sake of working. You also have a purpose behind why you're working. And also, even if you're trying to do small things, say some of you make garlands, the idea of that is an offering of service. So you can invest your intention in that. It could start very small and then it will flow into all aspects of life. Did I
Thank you.
answer your question in some way?
Yeah, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
So we spoke about, like Krishna speaks about the worker with knowledge. How does he act in the 19th verse? And he speaks about acting without attachment. We saw all these things in the form of the acronym master. So he's untouched by sins through though working. Like he gives, even though this person is busy doing so many things, he's not touched by any sins because he is detached. He has transcendental knowledge. And another reason there is no entanglement though working is because he is equipoised, and the reactions are dissolved because he has the uh, mind and intelligence controlled and dedicated his actions to God. So the reactions to his actions are dissolved. So these are some concepts that we saw in the until verses 23, and this is again a question which we had explored slightly different perspective in the chapter 3. So this question can be brought up in this section. So how can I perform my daily task without getting attached to the results? Because this concept, again, this is the concept of the chapter 2, 3, not even, I would not say 2, but yeah, some part of 2. Chapter 3, 4, and 5 is trying to answer this question again in various perspectives. So we will continue to see this question again once more in chapter 5. We saw this in chapter 3 also in a different way. So here the question is, how do I apply this in my daily life? As Parnika was asking, how do I make sure I'm detached from the results? What do I do? So basically, Krishna kind of, if you want to distill all that he is speaking in this chapter, it's focusing on the present. That I have something currently at my in my like to do, so I focus on that activity, and then staying steady. Whether it is like, okay, let us go to the and then start doing that with an inspiration that this is my service to the divine. This is part of my service to the divine. Sometimes it's a direct service, sometimes it's indirect service, but surely it is a it is a service to divine. Maybe you're taking care of your child, or you're cooking, or you're walking to work, or you're actually working, or you're resting. Everything is, all of that is actually connected to our offering to divine, because one of those aspects, you cannot just separate them. Without work, you won't have money. Without that money, you won't be able to support your family. Without that, you won't be emotionally stable. You won't be able to practice your spiritual life. So they're all connected. So making sure that what is there in my hand today, and what I can do to make it better. How do I face this situation? So focusing on the present, of making sure again we are resetting our consciousness as an offering to the divine, and also cultivating detachment, because we cannot control the results, but we can actually make sure our mind is controlled enough to make the endeavor. So for that, we need to be detached. We continuously think, oh, this could be like that, this could turn out like that. What if it does not turn out how I expect? So we waste a lot of time in that kind of a feeling. And also understanding our own duty properly and staying steady, whether it's a failure or whether it's a success or whether it's profitable or not profitable to the extent we think, we continue to do our activities. These are some of the points. And then I think I'm missing a slide. Okay. So this is the idea of trying to stay detached from the results. So now I'm thinking, how do I focus? There was some link is missing. There is no conclusion to the story. So let me think, what did I do? So how in terms of performing our daily tasks without being attached. So when we follow these qualities, then we will be able to endeavor sincerely and make our life into an offering. And is there any questions that comes up to your mind when I say this? Looking at this slide. It's a kind of a repeated information in one way. However, yes, Purva.
I wanted to ask, how do we cultivate detachment? Because sometimes when we want to do that, people, I mean, to us, they are very egoistic, or right adjective right now, but not interested, or just, like doing work just for the sake of doing things, whereas we just want to put into practice everything that is on the screen right now and not have those negative adjectives.
Hmm.
So how can we cultivate detachment?
The core of that, again, I may sound like a broken record, but the core of the detachment and all of these qualities, according to Krishna in this chapter, that's why he starts speaking about being the spirit, soul, and not the body. Most of the times, our identification, we actually project ourselves into the world as I'm so and so. I'm I'm like based on the bodily identification. That's how our projection is always there. We are programmed continuously like that. That becomes very obvious that when we project ourselves into the world with that bodily identification, then there is naturally we'll be affected by how others feel and how we also become our own mind and intelligence also. So that is why again I was speaking about it. All starts with the proper transcendental knowledge that who's God and who am I, what is my relationship with him. So if I'm the spirit soul, then how do I have to act? So at this stage, we need to again remind ourselves. We will forget it. I may chant my rounds and then yeah, immediately after that, I may just immediately forget that. But trying to actually start work with consciousness that why am I doing this? What is my purpose in trying to do this? Is it just a way to get money? Or is it a if I was given every month like $5,000 or $10,000, whatever is my salary, if somebody says, oh, I'll just give you the salary, you would just sit quiet, will I be happy? Maybe for some time, but afterwards we are active, we want to do something. So money is only one part of the work that I'm doing, but the work is also another way of engaging our talents and engaging our skills and being productive to the world. So how can I do that? So we are not thinking just about our own selves, we are also trying to think others. And when we think like that, whenever you endeavor anything in life, there is always going to be some uh, ups and downs. A day may not go according to how we want it to go. So and you may not always get the output the way we want it. So does it mean that if we become very affected, like if the rest of the day goes, oh, if only I have done that, it could have been a better result, and are we just wasting all the rest of the day focusing on what went wrong, or thinking, okay, whatever happened has happened, let me focus on the present. I could actually make a difference by changing the way how I approach this. I can make this change and continue to do, and it's not a big deal at the end of the life. Does this going to make like is this going to define me, who I am? And then you come into that bigger picture. So there is a small in everyday life, there is a smaller picture, there is an immediate picture, and there is a bigger picture. Maturity is to know how to travel between these two continuously. If a person just gets stuck in the smaller reality, then they will become very overwhelmed. If a person always just thinks of the higher reality, they'll become unproductive. They'll just be like kind of always on the mental level. Oh, anyway, life is temporary. Why do I have to do anything? So the maturity is to go between these two realities, the bigger reality and the smaller immediate reality. So between these two things, one who's mature can very seamlessly travel between these two realities. So you cannot live in only one of those realities to be functional in the world. You have to have the ability to go between these two realities. That's why a philosophy class can be confusing, because life is so demanding and work is so demanding and everything is like really quick and fast. And how do I actually this person, he's just sitting there and saying like be detached and stay steady and all of that. So how do I, you don't know what, how work is, it's crazy. So the idea is, if we learn to see the bigger reality in your own space when you're alone, and make your understanding strong, and when you jump into the world and you can see the immediate reality and act according to that. But when a situation hits you in that immediate reality, if you had the training, you can go back to the bigger reality, make your mind peaceful, and come back to the quickly to the small immediate reality and continue as if nothing has happened. So that internal connection with the bigger picture and the ability to go between those two realities, that is actually sign of spiritual maturity, I would say. Any thoughts? Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. It will take some time to put it into practice, but
Yeah, but that is
yes,
why we
we
always
can
speak about personal spiritual practice, because it, without that it will not become a lived reality, because there is wisdom and there is vision. So what in a class we can transfer is knowledge, maybe a little wisdom also you can transfer. But when, for me, if I share my life wisdom, for you it becomes knowledge. Until you live that, it will not become wisdom for you personally. And more than that, what we need actually for daily life is vision, spiritual vision. To see your life with that spiritual vision, you will have clarity. How should I act? How should I not act? For that vision to, for that wisdom to transfer into vision, it takes practice, personal spiritual practice. It's all combined. It's not just a theoretical knowledge. So you can take this theoretical knowledge and apply it in your own personal life, that becomes wisdom. And on top of it, you do spiritual practice, then it becomes a real vision. With your own eyes, you can see your life and make decisions. That's what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. Like, he's not trying to tell him whether to fight or not to fight, but trying to give such a detailed framework of life where he could make decisions anytime in future also, not just about this fighting. Every other situation that Arjuna is going to face, he will be able to make his he can be independently thoughtful. So that's why Krishna is trying to explain a very detailed framework. He could have given a few slaps to Arjuna and say, come on, he could have shown the universal form immediately and instilled fear in Arjuna and say, come on, I'm God, you're fighting. He could have done that, but that's not what Krishna is about. Krishna is about giving us intelligence and freedom to act. He can equip us with the necessary knowledge, but he does not want to force us. I hope I stayed in track on your question. And after speaking all of this, that how to act in a detached way and how it is much better than giving up one's work. So Krishna clearly says that by acting in this way, one achieves actually liberation. What to speak of not having reactions or acting like being untouched by sins. He's saying one achieves liberation through this kind of work. So he is speaking about not immediate problems. He is speaking about a very high level of solving the problem about liberation from material karmic bondage. So he says that is also possible through Nishkama Karma Yoga. So I have put it as reaction free work. The Sanskrit term is Nishkama Karma Yoga. So that's what we are trying to see in this chapter. So for someone to act with Nishkama Karma Yoga, they need knowledge. So that knowledge is what we are discussing. And I really liked, this is a quote adapted from another quote that I came across. It was on a different context, but I just adapted to this context. That how we are always anxious to control the result, but what we had was we never had control, we only had anxiety. The moment we understand that, then uh, we can focus on the work at hand. At the same time, we do have some control. It's not that we absolutely have no control, but to understand what is within my control, what is outside my control, that is what is, I would say, as maturity. There is a circle of control, there is a circle of influence. I think most of you have heard about this concept, circle of control and circle of concern. So instead of focusing on the other circle, outer circle, Krishna is asking us to focus on the inner circle, which is where we have control. And in the outside, in the circle of concern, it's there is only anxiety. We don't have any control. Things may go this way, things may go wrong in 100 ways that we don't have control. So no need to think about that, worry about it. But we can be intelligent enough to make sure and plan our best so that everything turns out right, and we can try. That's all we could do in this world. So we don't have control over the result. For we have even not started acting. So how can you have control over the result? The result hasn't even manifested yet, and there is no guarantee that that's how the result will be, how you want it to be. So that is why all we have is anxiety. Rather, we could actually turn it into proper productive action. So that's what Krishna is trying to tell in this particular section. So this whole chapter